Balance Post came out yesterday. I want to go over where I think they made, good choices, bad choices. But the most important thing to understand is I'm only doing this because I care so much about this game, probably in an unhealthy way. But I really want this game to be successful, and I think the developers overall missed the mark. So I'm going to go first into the balance post we got, and then into the balance post I think we should have gotten. Kicking it off. First thing, Doctor Strange, he gets a reduction in the speed at which his shield recovers from 70 seconds to 60 seconds. They're clearly worried about the Invisible Woman team up being a little strong. I don't think that this change needed to happen. Doctor Strange really does feel like one of the weakest Vanguards right now in the meta because Emma Frost, Invisible Woman, Wolverine, a lot of very meta heroes all push him out of having large alts and also push him out of being able to have frontline presence. So, in my opinion, Doctor Strange did not need any nerfs. He just needed that Invisible Woman team up buff. But I do have more thoughts on Doctor Strange. Rogue, one of the biggest problems I have with Rogue right now is that I think her ability cooldowns are a little too long. But all I really want with Rogue is more movement. So Marvel Rivals, the devs, clearly understand this. They are reducing Fatal Attraction cooldown from 17 seconds to 14 seconds. And an important thing to understand is that when you grab somebody, if that person doesn't have an ability, you regain Fatal Attractions. Fatal Attraction can come up a lot more frequently with this buff. I'm not sure about the math, but it feels like with 2, since the 3-second reduction, it might be like a 6-second increase in the cooldown. And then another important thing too is I'm pretty sure Fatal Attraction also gets refunded during her ultimate. Additionally, they're increasing defensive stance absorb damage energy conversion rate from 0.27 to 0.35. I think any Rogue player can tell you that the defensive stance in terms of damage and like the charge that was building up was just not a thing that was happening because of how slowly it charged. This is good, but I do think that Rogue's damage output is quite strong right now, and this obviously buffs that, as well as reducing the cooldown Fatal Attraction as one of her damage output tools. But overall, like I said, I just think she needed more movement. Thor, Hammer Throw new effect, hit now gains 50 bonus HP, and then reduce the bonus health provided by a Storm Surge from 75 to 50. This is overall, in like the happy use case, this is a buff because Thor can effectively have 800 HP now. In the not so happy use case, it's sort of a nerf in a way. I think getting 75 HP from Storm Surge just consistently, an ability that does not have to actually land, means that Thor was previously able to hit 150 HP more forgivingly. Whereas now, if you wanted to get to 700 HP with the overshield health armor, you would have to use 3 Storm Surges. Hammer Throw, like a lot of Thor players complain about the fact that Hammer Throw is an essential move that must land in order to recharge Thor Force, and this just binds that even more to how essential hitting a Hammer Throw is. But the strange thing about Hammer Throw is it doesn't deal a lot of damage, and there's no incentive to hitting more than one hero with it. It really is just like a thing that you have to do in order to gain more Thor Force, and now also bonus HP. I don't love it. I understand that Thor is a problem in the sense that it can feel like he's unkillable, but Thor also takes so much damage, and the reason why Thor is unkillable is because he's able to put so much pressure on enemies without a ton of healing, and also a Vanguard that kind of complements and is able to also take some damage. Thor is unable to do what he wants to do on the front line. He's strong, don't be wrong. Swapping onto Punisher of a shotgun deletes him from the game. Venom, they increased the base health from 650 to 675, and then increased Feast of Abyss, the ultimate ability, damage to bonus health conversion from 1 to 1.3. Venom definitely needs something. I just don't think that these health changes are the direction I would have gone. Venom gets his ultimate almost every single team fight, maybe even twice a team fight if it goes long enough. So that bonus health to me is a point of frustration if I'm playing against it, especially as a strategist. I'm not sure this is the right direction, but they're definitely identifying correctly that Venom needs a little something more, because he's just kind of displaced by a lot. Well, Captain America mostly. Captain America's survivability is just so high that I don't know why you wouldn't play Cap over Venom in most scenarios. Especially because Captain America provides team utility like Ultimate Charge. Deadpool Duelist increased the healing amount gained when releasing Pop Quiz, the ultimate ability, from 30 to 35, and from 60 to 70 upon passing the challenge. I get why they did this. Deadpool Duelist is definitely one of the weaker variants of Deadpool, but I think the actual problem is the neutral. The ultimate being stronger is good, but when you compare the damage out from the Vanguard versus the Duelist, I need to double check, but I'm fairly certain it's the same or very close to being the same. And it's only through the upgrades where the Duelist variant is able to outperform in terms of damage. That's a problem. Like, Duelist should have more damage than Vanguards. Moon Knight reduced the bonus max health provided from Moonblade from 100 to 75. This is such a stupid change, because I think everyone can agree that the most frustrating part about Moon Knight is just the frequency of his ultimate. It's without his ultimate coming down as often as it does, Moon Knight is not as good of a hero. That is true. One of the reasons why players play Moon Knight is because his ultimate is so frequent and you can have insane damage, but it's just not fun to play around. You constantly have to spread out, and by constantly I mean like every 30 seconds, or maybe 45 seconds is more realistic. But heroes like Mantis without an ultimate just gets severely punished on game modes like any card game mode, because she doesn't have any movement ability to get out of the ultimate, plus an Ankh displacing her for a second. Heroes is frustrating because of the ultimate, not because of the bonus max HP that he gets from Moonblade. Phoenix reduced base health from 275 to 250. I'm not going to talk about Phoenix right now. She needed a lot more nerfs. Psylocke. I think Psylocke is actually in a pretty healthy state. I hardly see her, which is probably the wrong response. She was in a really good state before they decided to buff her ultimate, and I just wonder, like, if we went back to that, is everyone happy? But here, the psionic crossbow damage fall off is adjusted from maximum damage fall off at 30 meters from 60% to 70%, and then reduce the single hit damage of Dance of the Butterfly ultimate ability from 170 to 160. Yeah, I just think maybe if we go back like 2 seasons, when Psylocke was a hero who yes, you were like mostly farming her ultimate, and then trying to use it like trying to only hit one strategist, whereas now you can farm her ultimate and then pop it on 2 strategists and it will kill through because the speed and the damage has been increased so much. But I do think that like 2 seasons ago, Psylocke was a more interesting hero, and now she's just hardly ever played. Into Squirrel Girl. Squirrel Girl increases the projectile speed of Squirrel Blockade when unleashing without charge from 20 meters per second to 30 meters per second. I think it's good to have heroes that are simple to play. I don't think they need to get buffed. If I don't see Squirrel Girl in my games, like, that is fine. The Grenade spam is not a fun mechanic to play into. If anything, if any buff happens to Score Girl, the direction they should take is on her movement. The stun is frustrating. The damage, like the random damage, is frustrating. Yeah. Star-Lord reduced the energy cost of Galactic Legend ultimate ability from 3,400 to 3,100. Just a huge mistake. Star-Lord at the upper ranks is an alt farm merchant. His ult is not engaging for the Star-Lord player or for the enemy team. You basically have to play Emma in order to and save your ultimate for him so that you can stop it. Or you have to have the support ult, or you have to swap onto Loki and Rune. Adam Warlock also works. This is just, I'm not sure why they did this. It has to be for players who are not as good with Star-Lord. But it's a concerning change. I'm frankly not going to read through the Storm changes. I don't completely understand the ramifications of them. So I'm just going to skip that. Does Storm need buffs, nerfs? Probably not. I think she's been secretly like good this her entire life. A tier to B tier the entire time. And she's had her time in the sun too. Like Jeff Nato was obviously pretty prevalent when it released. And still could be against triple support. We just don't have a lot of Storm players. The utility that she provides to her teammates is great. But I have no pulse right now on how good these changes were. I also didn't think that Storm was a hero that necessarily needed the changes. The Punisher reduced the energy cost of Final Judgment ultimate ability from 3,700 to 3,400. It's the same problem as Star-Lord. He's an alt farm merchant. His shotgun is extremely frustrating. Having to just line of sight his ultimate for 12 seconds is also not fun for anyone but the Punisher. The movement, well, I'll go more into the Punisher when I break down what should have happened. Wolverine reduced the energy cost of Last Stand, his ultimate ability, from 3,400 to 2,800. This is an insane buff. Wolverine Ultimate's one of the strongest in the game. I understand that he doesn't get his ultimate very quickly because there can be a lot of downtime for him, but there is no need for Wolverine to have an ultimate that is on par with Groot, who gets his ultimate extremely quickly. And this basically makes Wolverine's ultimate comparable to a basic ability with just a very long cooldown, which to me is like unacceptable. Strategist Adam Warlock gets a new ability where he can enter flight mode at 10 meters per second for up to 4 seconds at full energy. Energy fully recharges from 10 to max in 15 seconds. And then also Soul Bond, new effect. Adam can now hover and attack during the ability's duration. I think this is awesome that they went back and did this for Adam. One of my concerns into the season is just Adam Warlock was balanced around the fact that he doesn't have mobility, and now we've given him mobility. I don't think that at 4 seconds of flight, he's going to be an oppressive hero. And it also seems like the flight locks him out of being able to attack. But overall, I think this is a win for everyone. I think it'll just make a hero who has not been as meta potentially viable in double healer comps, whereas right now he's mostly focused in triple. Invisible Woman increased the cooldown of Force Physics from 8 seconds to 10 seconds. Invisible Woman clearly needs nerfs. The Force Physics is probably the coolest aspect of any strategist in the game. I understand it's frustrating, but I also think that this is where there's play potential. What I don't understand is why they didn't look at her shield instead. So that's what I'm going to target, because that's clearly the source of frustration for players. Loki reduced mystical missile charges from 12 to 10. This is just a strange slap on the wrist. I don't really understand it. Loki does need nerfs, don't get me wrong, but why why reducing the count of ammunition he has just cause him to reload more often? What does that really do? I don't know. Ultron, increase imperative patch drone detach range from 30 meters to 35 meters. I think this is a good change. Ultron probably does need to be more viable in two strategist comps. I don't think that this moves the needle for him at all. At the same time, he is extremely oppressive in triple strategist comps because the damage out that he can deal is quite high. Imperative pat, or like the activation of the drone has been power crept now, where it grants the hero that has it armor, movement speed, and damage out, like additional damage or a damage multiplier. So Ultron I think is quietly like an extremely strong strategist that people are just not playing, and the detached range going from 30 meters to 35 meters is not going to make him played more, but it is going to make him more frustrating to play against in triple strategist. Now, that's a recap of what happened. Onto what I think should have happened. And actually, before we even get to the balance changes, there's like a preamble that I think the developers owed us. Please understand that every word I wrote here, I like really thought through. And so we'll just get into it. First, in an effort to better communicate to our player base our changes, we've made sure to express why balance changes are happening in this patch and forwards. First, we want to promote a healthy neutral game by nerfing historically strong ultimates while reducing frustrating villain kits and breathing life to some underpowered heroes. We recognize we cannot reduce the damage across the board without also making sweeping changes to healing and consequentially health as well. We acknowledge we need to make playing Vanguard more attractive, as triple Vanguard compositions have the health pool to keep triple strategist compositions less oppressive, as they lack the damage to compete, and will make matchmaking feel better. We will continue to tune accordingly throughout Season 6.5. Also, we completely forgot to mention we're introducing a third hero ban per team, and reducing the timer from 15 seconds to 8 seconds, as well as the reveal timer from 5 seconds to 2 seconds. Ignite the battlefield. So, from the top again, they need to communicate why they make the changes that they make. They do not. I'm tired of the flavor text. I want, and I think a lot of people want, the game to move towards a stronger neutral and less importance on ultimates. Ultimates are strong. Ultimates do decide games, but it should not be one ultimate after the other the majority of the game. And that's my problem, and I think a lot of players' problems with the state of the game right now. On the topic of making damage, health, and healing changes, I've avoided that in my changes because fundamentally you would have to reduce all the heroes if you make a change to one of them, or like multiple of those heroes. And I also want to point this out to the developers as well. I think it's important to understand that it's really difficult to change damage, health, and healing without making changes across the board. So what I'm trying to do in these changes is attack utility and make the game less frustrating to play in terms of utility that heroes should have or shouldn't have. On the subject of Vanguards, if we have more players that want to play Vanguard, strategists do not have the damage to deal with those high health pools. So triple Vanguard is, like in terms of game theory, the counter to triple strategist. It's just most teams don't have players that want to make that change. Additionally, I think everyone can agree that having two Vanguards makes the game feel much better than having a solo Vanguard. So we definitely need to incentivize players to pick up Vanguard. The next note about continuous tuning is I'm tired of us receiving balance posts only at the end of a month period. I want the developers to tweak the game throughout the month when they see that there's problems in the meta. I think we've had a season 0 meta for way too long, and that there haven't been enough small changes, really kind of direct changes that can, week to week spice things up. That at this point, I want more tuning to happen. And then lastly, on the bans, it was the only thing I wanted from this patch. The only thing I wanted. I would have been fine with not a single change to any hero. I just needed more bans so that me as a player could regulate the lack of balance in the game. This is the highest point of frustration I have with the developers and this upcoming season. Last season, Deadpool introduced 3 heroes. We are getting Miss Bloodstone, who is going to be a hit scan, but high damage DPS that I think will be able to compete with Hela, Phoenix. Really that's all that matters. But as a Vanguard, that means that I also, and the buffs too that we reviewed just a second ago, that means that there's going to be more things that are frustrating to play into that have not been balanced, that I cannot get rid of the game. And so things are going to come through. And, ultimately just give the power to the players. If you don't want to implement a way to get around duplicate bans, that is a decision. But that would be great too, because it sucks when both teams ban Gambit and then both teams ban like Phoenix and you have to play into Hawkeye. It just does suck. On to the adjustments. Emma Frost. We want to reward the Ice Queen when she picks the most appropriate target rather than outright punish all frontline Vanguards. The change. During Psychic Spear, when the sentience shatters, deal damage to the target equal to 35% of the target's health when the sentience was created rather than 25% of their maximum health. What this means is a hero like Hulk, Groot, etc. doesn't outright get punished just for being in front of her, which is what they're supposed to do. But instead, if Emma chooses a bad target, then she doesn't get as much damage out. One of the problems I have with Emma Frost's buffs that happened a season ago now, or last season, is it just feels like they buff the hero so that the kit is carrying players again. Whereas before, as an avid Hulk player, I felt that I really had a grasp on the matchup and how to navigate it. Like, Emma Frost is not supposed to be a favorable matchup for Hulk, but because I have the ability to jump, use bubble, and other tools, also like Exile, I just thought that I was getting better at it. Now, with her damage increase, I just think the kit is too strong. So I want to reward players that are good, hence the extra damage on the target's current health. But I do not want to, and that's it, really. That's it. Because what I do not want to happen is have Vanguard just punished for existing. Emma is a Vanguard bully. Another thing too that I've really started to appreciate is how Emma Frost is really there to regulate Groot. Groot is very problematic. I'm gonna get into that in a second. But you have to maintain high damage on the front line to counter Groot, and Emma is probably one of the best into him. Doctor Strange. We're hoping the Invisible Woman team-up grants Sorcerer Supreme the necessary damage output to be competitive against the likes of meta heroes like Emma Frost. I mentioned these 3 before. But we want to let heroes show skill expression through creative teleportation plays more frequently. So, reduce the global team-wide cooldown on Pentagram of Farah by 5 seconds for each kill by the team. Additionally, Pentagram, his TP, cannot be placed within 2 meters of an enemy spawn door. The teleportation mechanic from Doctor Strange is one of the coolest aspects of the hero. We don't get to see it used that often outside of basically getting an early kill locking enemy teams out of being able to contest or recontesting point during overtime. And it's just a shame that this mechanic is not used more aggressively and creatively. So what I'm trying to do with these changes is incentivize that. He definitely needs something in order to be more consistent with his ultimate. But his ultimate during season 1 was so oppressive and regularly hit that I think looking at other aspects of his kit and leaning into the creativity that heroes can show through skill expression is more important. Magneto, mag cannon displacement at full charge is up far too often since we gave him 2 bubbles, so we're forcing the king to make more difficult decisions. Part of what makes his combo so strong is players lose the ability to move when his mag cannon is sandwiched by 2 iron volleys. So, mag cannon has 4 iron ring charges from 3. The 4th charge will cause the displacement effect players are familiar with, previously gained with 3 iron rings. Damage at 3 and 4 charges is unchanged. All he gains is displacement, or moving displacement from the 3rd charge to a new 4th charge. Additionally, increase iron bulwark and metal bulwark cooldown from 8 seconds to 10 seconds. Bubble is so strong. Magneto has his shield as well. Yeah, I think his 3-shot combo, if you will, is frustrating to play against. And I just want a Magneto to make the conscious decision to get that displacement effect. Whereas right now it just kind of feels like you're always getting hit by it because he has bubble up so frequently. Groot. One of the highest damage per second Vanguards was getting a team wipe ultimate too often while also forcing high damage compositions to remove his walls. So, increase the energy cost of Stringly Prison, the ultimate ability, from 2,800 to 3,800. Additionally, Thornlash walls lose 20 health per strike when they deal damage. Groot is just an absolute menace at the highest of elos. Like the Groot thing combo is very oppressive. Part of the reason is because it forces the entire enemy team to swap Duelist. You really want a Punisher in order to get through the walls, or the entire team would have to commit completely to diving, but in a rank that doesn't happen. And then additionally, the Thornlash walls are a problem for Strategist. There's a case certainly that the Thornlash walls should lose health just over time passively rather than when they deal damage. I think that this is at least a step in the right direction after increasing his Strangling Prison so much. One more thought on Strangling Prison is just there's so little counterplay to this ultimate. What is the best counter to it? Probably Luna Snow, but Luna Snow is falling more and more out of the meta in favor of Invisible Woman, Cloak, Gambit, and Loki. So the ultimate needs to be changed in this drastic way. Maybe 38,000 or 3,800 is too little for having one of the best ultimates in the game, but plus 1,000, that's a huge jump. And then, like I said, I think the Thornlash walls, they're very frustrating. They cause entire team comp changes with no changes on the team with the Groot, really, other than maybe swapping to Magneto to counter a Punisher ultimate. But yeah, Groot needs to be addressed. Should have been addressed. Captain America. Reduce Captain America's stall potential for lethality during his ultimate and make his shield more iconic. So, increase Living Legend shield health from 350 to 400. Reduce Captain America's base health from 575 to 500. Additionally, hold on, I'm going to make this better for all of us. Reworked Freedom Charge ultimate ability. So during his ultimate, Living Legend shield recovery value increases from 50 per second to 100 per second. His ultimate still grants a 30% movement boost to both yourself and your allies. Sentinel Strike always allows flying shield. No need to land a second hit to enable a ricochet shield throw. Using Living Legend and leading dash while this ability is active can still launch up enemies. The ultimate ability no longer grants ultimate energy charge efficiency nor bonus health. have the cooldowns on Liberty Rush, 10 seconds to 5 seconds, Super Slam, Super Soldier Slam, 12 seconds to 6 seconds. Vibranium Energy Saw, 6 seconds to 3 seconds, and then Living Legend has no cooldown. Why are these changes good? Why are these important to me? Just looking at like the base number changes at the top outside of his ultimate, the reason why I want to play Captain America is because of his shield. I don't want to play Captain America because I have like a little more HP to dive than, say, I don't know, like Angela, I suppose, has less HP. So for me, it's important to like have the image of Captain America running at the enemy team with his shield up in a way that Angela is simply not going to, because she's a flying hero who most of her mechanics are really about using her spear to displace heroes. Then onto the ultimate. The biggest problem with the ultimate is they introduced a buff where they where the ultimate grants allies ultimate energy charge, and this contributes to the ultimate slop that we have today, which is not great. Additionally, because he gets health and his allies do too, Captain America effectively becomes a third support ult in a 2-2-2 composition, or a fourth in a 2-1-4 or 2-1-3. And again, I don't think anyone really wants to play a game that just drags out a longer amount of time. There is meta tech, if you will, at higher elo, where players will swap to Captain America in overtime just so that they can try to stall longer and then also farm ultimates for their team. So I think we need to shift during his ultimate the stall potential he has into just increased lethality. And if you think about the majority of heroes like Hulk or Iron Fist, etc., these empowered states are largely pretty successful as a form of skill expression. So I think that this would be an exciting way to have Captain America reshape his identity, make it more shield focused, and then also just remove frustration with Captain America as a hero who is just impossible to kill sometimes, while making him more capable of killing things. For Venom, we don't want to punish players who want to get out, so while not on cooldown, Venom always has the ability to use Symbiotic Resilience, including through CC. Symbiotic Resilience is his overhealth that he gets based on the amount of HP he's missing. It's just frustrating when you get grabbed by like Emma, for instance, and you have this tool that you cannot use. You like know that it's gonna happen too. Or even like a Luna Freeze, for instance. You're just like spamming the button. You are trying to do the right thing, but you can't do it because you've just been like chain CC'd basically. I don't think it's great for I don't think that's a fun experience for Venom, and Venom definitely needs buffs in regards to the amount of CC in the game, and him also having absolutely no counters to it. If he can't swing out, for instance, he just literally he dies. Like one good invis pull or a Bucky hook as he's swinging out is just the end of a Venom. Hulk, we don't want to punish players who want to Hulk out. So while not on cooldown, Hulk always has the ability to use Monster Hulk, the ultimate ability, including through CC. This means that he has to have his ultimate, but it also means that if Emma grabs him, he's able to ultimate. Emma is like the de facto choice to keep going to, but I think like just I think that this is an important change because a lot of times what a Hulk wants to do is jump into the backline very aggressively, burn all their utility, and then be able to use their ultimate, but they can't because they just got hit with all that CC. Additionally, Hulk being able to retain his jump meter charge through displacement effects. It just means that like instead of having to build up that charge again, which is what we're doing right now by having hold to click or hold to charge, we would be able to get out when we knew we wanted to get out in the beginning. And I think like ultimately both these changes to Venom and Hulk are when the player makes the right decision, don't punish them. On a Rogue needs a little more movement without increasing her damage output, which again I think is quite strong right now. So increase base movement speed from 6 meters per second to 6.5 meters per second. This is in line with Hulk right now. I do like the shield change. I think, I would add that too. But as I already said, Rogue's abilities can feel quite oppressive, especially on the front. As a brawl hero, she is strong and frustrating, especially as a Hulk player. Reducing her cooldowns, I think, is a little dangerous. This is the direction I would have gone with. Onto the Thing. We still want him to be effective against movement-based heroes, but we need to correct incentive to use Rocky Jab over Stone Haymaker. So Stone Haymaker is the right click, his larger windup, whereas Rocky Jab is just his typical melee. The change, Stone Haymaker damage deals 55 plus 10% of enemies' current health per hit rather than their max health. The problem with the Thing right now is because he gets HP based on the damage he deals with Stone Haymaker. I mean, Stone Haymaker is just a completely power crept ability. It grounds heroes, it cleaves, grants some HP. I think that might be it. But it also deals significantly more damage reliably than Rocky Jab. And I just wish the Thing players had to make a decision on whether it made more sense for them to use Stone Haymaker or Rocky Jab, where right now it just feels like Rocky Jab is always the best moveset. Moon Knight. We recognize Moon Knight ultimate happening every 30 seconds is frustrating, so increase the energy cost of Hand of Khonshu ultimate ability from 2,800 to 3,400. I don't know if that's enough, but it would have been something. Additionally, as like a compensation, decrease Moonlight Hook cooldown from 15 seconds to 12 seconds. I like janky things, so I wish Rivals played more with Moon Knight's mobility and being able to position than just raw damage and survivability with overhealth, which is the direction that we've seen them go so far. Hela. We want Hela to use Soul Drainer to burst kills rather than counter heroes on top of her. We think this change will promote Black Widow as a better anti-dive sniper hero, because by the way, Black Widow's melee is her one melee ability is one of the strongest in the game as anti-dive. And then additionally, Hela's ultimate as a get out of jail card is being refocused to tempo advantages, which is what all ultimates should really try to do. So, Soul Drainer always travels at least 8 meters from the player, including Rogue, skipping the extra distance if used closer. This just means if I'm a diver, I'm on top of Hela, I should win the game, or the fight. She should not be able to displace me and win that engagement, because the thing to do against a poke hero as strong as Hela is to jump her. And right now, it doesn't feel like it's always winnable when the matchup should be inherently winnable. Goddess of Death ultimate ability gains health equal to Hela's current health multiplied by 5. What is really frustrating also with Phoenix, but I didn't do it here for Phoenix, is when Hela is about to die, she will pop her ultimate, and then she'll have 800 HP in the sky. And if you want to play a melee composition, which is, dive typically, which is the counter to a Hela, then her ultimate just clears the map. The other thing too with Hela's ultimate is if you don't have the poke or a Phoenix to burst it down, or Doctor Strange also to block it, then you end up just leaving the battlefield for 10 seconds. And I think something that Marvel Rivals needs to address is, as frustrating as strategist ultimates that last 12 seconds, like Luna Snow's used to, are because everyone's invincible, it is just as frustrating to have an ultimate which it deals so much damage that everyone needs to scatter for 10 seconds as well. This would be a similar thought with the Punisher. On the Phoenix, an ultimate that fully heals a hero and removes utility makes it quite strong, so we're tuning appropriately. Additionally, divers should not fear Phoenix in a close range engagement as much as they do today. So, reduce base health from 275 to 250. She should have never had 275. Increase the energy cost of Ensong Inferno, ultimate ability, from 3,100 to 4,000, which, by the way, is in line with Goddess of Death, Hela's ultimate ability. And then the first blast of Telekinesis Burst, that's her right click, only stuns when enemies have 3 sparks on them. The last point, I think, is the most important. Phoenix being able to stun a hero that also deals damage, by the way, and then continue to just primary fire at that hero means that while I know they took away her brawl damage output with the melee tech, I think people used to call it the Beyblade tech, she just feels so awful to fight against when you couple the fact that she also has insane amount of mobility. Phoenix players that complain about her survivability, I think, are really just not using the entirety of her kit, or are using it too whimsically, because Telekinesis Burst and this ability to stun is a cooldown that, as a Vanguard, I need to really play around before I commit to Phoenix. Yeah, I mean, another problem with Phoenix too is Hela gets a passive extra damage anytime she gets a kill. There's like a burst that happens, but Phoenix gets passive extra damage anytime she lands marks on heroes, which, unlike the cart game mode, is so often because everyone's just trying to push down main typically. The nerfs, the base HP nerf is not enough. Her ultimate ability is one of the best to combo with in the game, especially because she can like wait out for the other player to be ready up to like 8 seconds, I think. She can be in the sky, take no damage for so long. It being able to remove Hela alt, Rocket alt, Penny Nest, Groot walls, Loki clones, etc. is like so strong. This ultimate needs to be increased. And then on top of that, her getting her full HP back, which I didn't touch, but let me complain about for a second. It just feels like bullshit, especially when she gets her ultimate so frequently. So I think these changes are a step, but I don't even think that it's close to being done with Phoenix. And maybe the solution is just increasing the ultimate charge even more, because she does stop so many heroes from being able to do what they want to do. But I think the most important point here is actually in the Telekinesis Burst nerf, and having that stun only apply when a hero has 3 more sparks on them. Some love for some underwhelming heroes here. So Scarlet Witch, we're increasing Scarlet Witch's lethality and her ability to combo with Reality Erasure. So a Reality Erasure ultimate ability blinds enemies within a 15-meter radius over 2 seconds. They introduced a slow, or like a pull, maybe like 4 seasons ago with her ultimate. I think a cloak-like shrouding blind would be cool. Not really because I want Reality Erasure to happen more often. I think that will be a consequence. But I do think that this ultimate is a cool ultimate to combo things with. If you had a way to blind the entire enemy team and then do something else. You know, maybe reality erasure pops, but just having that window of time, it's 4 seconds in total that reality erasure takes, I think would just lead to some interesting plays and make Scarlet Witch's ultimate at least something that people want to work with. And then additionally, there's no way I'm pronouncing this correctly, but her burst damage gains an additional charge from 4 to 5. And this is just because Scarlet Witch's biggest problem is just the lack of damage. You don't want to give her more damage with her primary fire that, you know, grants her more charges, because it doesn't require any aim. You want to increase skill expression with Scarlet Witch through the burst damage. Mr. Fantastic. We want to give Mr. Fantastic more flexibility during his ultimate without outright boosting his damage, as his neutral survivability is already quite strong. Yeah, I don't want to touch his damage, and I don't want to touch his survivability. Those are the two things, really, that I should have said. It's a little conflicting in that messaging there. But here's the change. Brainiac Bounce, ultimate ability, no longer must hit an enemy to trigger additional leaps after 3. He has a maximum of 6 right now. And then Brainiac Bounce can be canceled, and Mr. Fantastic maintains his momentum, leaving or canceling the ability. I just think that this ultimate clearly needs some oomph. You know, one aspect of the ultimate that I don't think is underutilized is just it being Mr. Fantastic's best escape tool. And I think, as I said before, I like janky things. I think it'd be cool if Mr. Fantastic can literally fly out of situations to get out. It is quite unfortunate that Mr. Fantastic's ultimate is not thought of as an ultimate to combo with, because the slow effect can go all the way up to, I think it's like 40%. It's not as high. Maybe it's like 65%. But it's not as immediate as Black Widow's. But it's still like pretty, you definitely feel it when you're under it. In any case, Mr. Fantastic, don't touch the neutral is my recommendation. There's like a lot of things that you could do to make him more disruptive, but I don't think that actually makes the game more fun. And more damage and more survivability are definitely not what I would do either. I think it's just about getting this ultimate to a place where it doesn't feel like a troll, or it doesn't feel so underwhelming for the hero and for his team. Human Torch has lost his place as a flying assassin, so we want to revert a previous change. Now his mobility and damage are tempered. Reduce Flaming Meteor cooldown from 15 seconds to 12 seconds. Basically, I just want him to be able to dive more often. And, you know, I think he's been nerfed so much that, and is like a cool hero already restricted by the amount of charges he has with his primary fire, and then also like his prisons or his fire, whatever you want to call them, those are also limited. So for a hero so restricted, I think we just need to give him like a little more burst potential, and the way you do that is through Flaming Meteor. I also just want his like niche to like fully be realized. Spider-Man. We love the skill it takes to pull heroes off the map, but we want to remove some of the corniness and give players some reaction time if the pull isn't as clean as it could be. The change is breaking line of sight of Spider-Man, and an enemy pulled by Get Over Here frees the enemy hero. Spider-Mans will know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe Strategists or Vanguards will too. You know, the tether exists until the line of sight between the enemy that got pulled by Get Over Here and Spider-Man breaks. As soon as that line of sight breaks, then the enemy hero should be able to use movement cooldowns. And also, like, I don't know if the momentum should continue to carry or how that should work. I just know that at that point, I don't think that you should be subject to Spider-Man's pull anymore, because something has obstructed the the spider web. Blade. We expected the anti-heal of Blade to be a more prominent solution to Triple Strategist, but it hasn't been, so we're increasing his vampiric attributes across the board. 1000-fold slash ultimate ability, healing reduction increased from 20% to 32%. Bloodline Awakening healing reduction increased from 25% to 32%. Bloodline Awakening lifesteal portion increased from 65% to 75%. Well, okay, first, why 32%? The reason's because Venom anti-heal or healing reduction is 30%, and the maximum amount of anti-heal that you can get from your shotgun, I think, I forget if it's the sword or the shotgun now, is 32%. So I just want one number that is the same across the board. That's why. The main thing I want to express is like, why should he get less healing during Bloodline Awakening? And this is really to just, I think, for me and writing these, to push that when you're using Bloodline Awakening, the lifesteal portion is the significant method to get healing. You should be using Bloodline Awakening to 1v1 against Strategist. You shouldn't have to rely on your team to get healing during that time. Additionally, this is one of the coolest heroes, like I already said, but this is such a cool solution to Triple Strategist, and the fact that we didn't get to see Blade in like his full glory is just quite upsetting. It makes no sense why Venom has more healing reduction with his ultimate than Blade does, since thematically and also just like this was the hero that was released in order to introduce this mechanic. The Blade's been a mistake since release, or hasn't been balanced correctly since release. I think they're not too far away, but for me, they just have to lean into like the vampire aspects of Blade. Iron Fist, he needs a little something. So this is like one of the most tame buffs I could think of, but I'm like actually pretty happy with it. We're set with the direction we've taken Iron Fist. However, we acknowledge brawling on the front line can be quite challenging without more armor. So armor does not decay while using Wall Runner. I just think it's a really cool thing. Maybe it, leads to power creep down the road. Should he do like percent health missing damage? Maybe. But they've clearly locked in the direction for Iron Fist as sort of a pseudo Wolverine. Iron Fist definitely feels strong. Fundamentally, it doesn't really make sense that a hero who wants to frontline only has one movement tool without the HP to actually frontline. But, I'm gonna leave it at that. I think that this is a change that would promote Iron Fist, who do use Wall Run, one of the cooler aspects of his kit, to just maintain more presence on the front line. Namor, extremely strong, but melee heroes need a way to handle Namor's passive value, and Namor needs a way to regulate his passive value. So Monstro Spawn loses 1 health per damage dealt, 2 to 5 rounds per second depending on enhanced state. That does mean that during the enhanced Monstro, it would be losing 5 HP per 5 HP per second is what would be lost. I just think that there needs to be a way for those Monstros to disappear because they've been on the field for too long, or you want to run a melee comp and you don't have access to actually remove them. Definitely a tame change. Black Panther, big list of notes here. I should have had something because I forgot. Too deep now. But mostly what I did here is I took Carcat's, who is a Black Panther player, ideas, and just thought, as like a guideline, and really just thought like, how can I give this hero more uptime? How can I make him less frustrating to play against? And this is what I came up with. So Decrease spear toss spherical radius from 5 meters to 3 meters. That does mean that less heroes or enemies will get vibranium marks, but here we go. There's some reasons why. So decrease Spirit Rend cooldown from 10 seconds to 6 seconds. Enemy heroes who die with vibranium marks refresh Spirit Rend. Decrease Spirit Rend damage from 80 to 50. Increase spear toss damage from 50 to 80. Vibranium claws mark enemy heroes with a vibranium mark. Hitting an enemy hero with vibranium mark reduces spear toss cooldown by 1 second per hit. What does this mean? You can still spear dash. That definitely is still part of Black Panther's play style. I didn't really want to change that. I think that is like cool, and also there's so much healing in the game that happens where typically spear dash is not actually enough. And there's also so much CC as well. Then when I think about like, why am I granting so much more vibranium marks? Well, the main reason is because Spear Toss having a lower spherical radius means that, and also more damage, means that he can kind of poke now. So what I'm doing here is trying to move the mobility, which can be like frustratingly hard to play against, and put the damage into the aiming, the poke of the hero, while also just like giving some compensation so that poke can be up more often, as well as the mobility can be up more often. Ultimately, I don't know if this makes Black Panther less frustrating to play against. I do know, at the very least, it makes Black Panther able to play into heroes that completely that just force a Black Panther to swap. I don't think the game is balanced correctly if by bringing out the Thing, 98% of Black Panthers are just going to go to spawn and play Star-Lord or a different hero. I don't think that's correct. So these are the changes that I think would at least move Black Panther into better balance, putting more focus on their ability to hit spear tosses without outright removing the fun of Spirit Rend. Hawkeye. We want to maintain Hawkeye's lethality while removing his unreactable burst damage. So reduce Archer's focus bonus damage from 90 to 30. Archer's focus maximum damage is achieved after half a second of aiming from 0.9 seconds. And then a new mechanic, Pierce Arrow bleeds 30 seconds over 2 seconds. Healing does not stop the bleeding, it just removes the damage taken. I guess you could cleanse with Gambit. Ultimately, like Hawkeye, the problem with Hawkeye is that it's unfun to get one shot by something that you really cannot do anything about, especially on a cart mode. Like, yeah, you can tell a strategist that they should be playing behind cover, but sometimes your vanguards or your duelists just are trying to make a play on someone else, and the Hawkeye just looking down main is going to snipe you as you move up in order to support that play. And that, to me, just doesn't sit right. So I think the bonus damage from Archer's focus is also just ridiculous because you get it by aiming. When is Hawkeye not aiming? It's silly. Daredevil's ability to dive is important to maintain, but his invincibility is a source of frustration. Everything true. So reduce the length of objection from 1.5 seconds to 1 second. The fact that this hero has longer invincibility, albeit from the front, than Iron Fist is just insane to me. When Daredevil is clearly in a stronger position than Iron Fist right now as well. So this is the change I want to happen to Daredevil. Definitely you could reduce some of the amount of armor that he gets from his abilities. But I think that this is the main source of my frustration of Daredevil. Iron Man needs a little more utility and identity with Micro Missile Barrage. The skill that no one uses. So enemy projectiles which pass through Micro Missile Barrage's spell field are intercepted. I just think that this is a cool thing that Iron Man could now have. It doesn't really combo with any of his abilities. It just provides some overhead help for your backline, or maybe even if you're getting poked out like below you, then you can drop this. The Punisher ultimate needs to be less frequent because his one weakness, movement, exists only with a lack of imagination. In zipline setups, Jeff Bubble, movement boost Storm, movement boost and damage boost from Mantis ult, movement and damage boost from Gambit ult, a Magneto bubble to protect Punisher, a Magneto shield to protect Punisher, Rocket ult can damage boost kill through support ultimates, Ultron activates his drone, etc. Very frustrated that the developers decided to reduce the Punisher's energy cost of Final Judgment. Here, I am increasing the energy cost of Final Judgment ultimate ability from 3,700 to 4,000. You want the stat stick, basically, of just like insane amount of damage either through the shotgun or sustained damage through the assault rifle, and to a lesser degree the turret, but certainly through the ultimate. I think that this hero, the Punisher, just really does help boost a lot of bad players because the amount of damage that he puts out. The idea that dealing unnecessary damage feeds ult charge is like normally, it kind of feels like it's broken by the Punisher because the shotgun being able to do like up to 500 damage, I think, just means that there are some scenarios where if the Punisher can get pocketed in the front line, then he's able to delete the enemy's vanguards if the strategists look away for like a second. / the strategists don't even have the healing output to do enough for their vanguard in that situation. Anyway, I am not a fan of the Punisher. I'm also not a fan of Winter Soldier. So Bucky is everyone's hero of choice when things aren't going their way and has been dominant for too long. He's supposed to fill a role of anti-dive, but too often hooks frontline vanguards as his range is enormous. Reduce bionic hook projectile range from 10 meters to 5 meters with a 0.5 second charge. Reduce bionic hook maximum distance from 20 meters to 15 meters with a 1 second charge. That means that you gain 5 meters of like distance every 0.5 seconds. And so as you can imagine, every 0.1 seconds, you gain 1 meter. Increase bionic hook cone shaped spell field with a 4.5 meter radius to 5 meter radius. Radius changes are significant because every 0.5 meter change that you do to a radius means that it's effectively a 1 meter change to the size. Then increase tainted voltage cooldown from 6 seconds to 8 seconds. Mind you, he got two charges of tainted voltage. It slows, it deals damage, it refunds his ammunition. I think it gives him shield. It just needs to be on a lower cooldown. It also grounds, but he needs to be more selective on when he uses this. It feels like a lot of times what happens is it gets spammed into a group of like the entire enemy team actually. And then increase the energy cost of Kraken Impact ultimate ability from 3,100 to 3,500. So tired of hearing again. So tired of hearing again. His ultimate does not need to be up as frequently as it is. If he steamrolls, let him. But I just don't want to hear that initial Kraken impact as often as I do. And I don't think it's healthy for the game either, because a lot of games feel like we've had metas, we've had seasons where a lot of the seasons felt like who has the better Bucky is the team that's going to win. On to Gambit. We like how supercharged Gambit's ultimate is, but it needs to come at a cost. So increase the energy cost of Raging Royal Flush ultimate ability from 4,500 to 5,000. The key thing here is that this makes Gambit's ultimate one of the most expensive, in line with Luna Snow's. You know, I love the amount of utility that Gambit has. I've heard ideas like make him have to choose which effects he gets from his ultimate ability. I think no. Like, let's not do that. Let's just make sure that his ultimate ability doesn't happen as frequently as it does. Let's let good Gambits be good players. But his ult coming down as often as it does, plus Loki, is a problem. And I'm not sure that 5,000 is even where it should be. It should probably be maybe like 200, even more than that, and really cement him as having the best ultimate in the game, which he does. Invisible Woman. Opponents shouldn't have to break through when Sue Storm gets value from her shield. We want to make meta strategist ultimates more expensive to allow the rest of the roster breathing room. So increase the energy cost of Invisible Boundary ultimate ability from 4,500 to 4,800. This is a buff to all of the other strategists, by the way, just because her ultimate will be up less frequently. Then remove the slowing effect from Invisible Boundary. I just think it's frustrating to play with thematically. I don't care about the slowing effect. It was something that was added as a balanced change. There's really no combo potential with it. It's just frustrating to be inside of. And like, yes, the shield provides a slow, but I kind of get it because the shield is supposed to be a method to counter dive. On that subject, healing from Guardian Shield reduces Guardian Shield's health by 10 per second. This is maybe one of the most important changes I've put in my notes. What it means is that when Sue gets like 30 healing per second, or her ally gets 50 healing per second, each time they get that healing, the Guardian Shield loses HP. Now, imagine you're Venom. You dive an Invisible Woman. Your tentacles, I think, maybe do like... Your melee does like 40 damage max. If Guardian Shield has a 200 HP and Sue is getting 30 healing, then the damage... Me trying to damage the shield is going to take 5 melee hits, which already is crazy. But also, you're poking me, and I'm not dealing damage to you. So that's what this is trying to address. The fact that like Guardian Shield, when it gives, and a lot of changes too, like Namor, Groot, I've already mentioned this idea of like anytime you get value from something, there should be a cost to getting that value, especially with summons. Really, summons are the problem. And Guardian Shield is a summon. It needs to go away after some time because you're getting value from it. It's that simple. Rocket, we acknowledge we made a mistake nerfing Hero's mobility. Rocket's form of skill expression, when our ultimate goal was to reduce his survivability as he's the dominant fill strategist hero. So increase movement speed during wild crawl from 8 meters per second to 10 meters per second. Reduce repair mode self-healing from 30 per second to 25 per second. Rocket is an important hero for the game. It means that like when you have 4 duelists who are in your game and someone has to fill, there is that strategist that people can gravitate towards. I like that gets punished by Phoenix. I haven't changed anything about that. But man, is he hard to kill. And I don't think the correct thing at all is to reduce the amount of movement speed he gets during Wild Crawl, which is a cool ability. For me, it's really just that passive healing that can be so frustrating to play against. Anytime I dive supports, it's like Rocket. Well, maybe Invisible Woman is one of the first that I need to pressure, but then after that, it's Rocket. and it's really just because the amount of self-healing that he can do, and then also that self-healing still heals his teammates. It just makes Rocket a frustrating hero to attack. Then we have Loki. We want unmindful Loki players to be punished when they panic, use Regeneration Domain, while also ensuring Loki has a longer time to use his ultimate as it is so flexible. So, Regeneration Domain cooldown begins once the last runestone is removed from the map. Runes that are not destroyed via damage cause the cooldown to begin 5 seconds later than now, as the cooldown currently starts immediately. This just means that if you place down 3 runestones, like that's the max that you can place down, and one of them is far away from the action, that until that runestone decays, the cooldown for Regeneration Domain will not begin. But if you use it on like a huge strange ult and you save your entire team, then and that thing gets wiped out immediately, then the cooldown starts as it does today, which is almost immediately. Well, today it starts immediately, but it will now start almost immediately. Additionally, increase the energy cost of God of Mischief ultimate ability from 4,300 to 5,000. This idea that Loki is going to be, his ultimate will be used on a Duelist ult or a Vanguard ult. I wish that would be cool, but the reality is Loki right now is just being used to copy supports, and to be able to copy what will probably be the strongest support in the game, because that's what Loki wants to target. I think his ultimate needs to cost, one of the highest. Needs to be one of the highest value costs in the game. Cloak and Dagger. A smart Cloak and Dagger will chain their survivability kit off cooldowns, leaving a window of less than a few seconds to deal damage without her escaping it. That's because she has like the levitation ability. Additionally, in Season 1.5, we increased Cloak and Dagger's Eternal Bond healing to mirror Luna Snow's, but we're reverting the change to make Luna Snow more attractive. So one aspect of this is that Luna Snow is one of the weaker strategists right now, because her neutral game is one of the weaker ones. She's very easy to dive. But another thing too is like, I think it's just cool when we're able to make plays even though there's a strategist all down. And when you have this like super high healing that Cloak provides at 250 per second, it's not possible. So the changes are Dagger Storm's cooldown begins once it disappears from the map. The duration remains 6 seconds while the cooldown remains 12 seconds, but the cooldown doesn't start immediately now. And so like you can imagine, I use Dagger Storm. Like currently what I do is I use Dagger Storm, 6 seconds of that healing. Then I need to wait 6 seconds until I can use it again, but I can use the levitation ability, the one where I fade. And basically as long as I can just like somehow sustain for really about, it's those 6 seconds, right? But the levitation I think has at least 2 seconds or 3 seconds. Then I can just start like chaining these two abilities so that I can't die. So I'm addressing that. Increase the energy cost of Eternal Bond ultimate ability from 4,500 to 4,900. One thing I haven't said since the beginning is I want to increase ultimate cost of Strategist just so that we don't have to play or see triple strategist ultimates be so dominant. The less frequently they're used, the less incentive there is to actually play triple strategist, because right now strategist ultimates are the strongest in the game. And last bit here, reduce the healing amount of Eternal Bond from 250 per second to 220 per second. One more thought on Cloak and Dagger is that when they made the change to her damage, I forget what they call it. Basically, she has the ability where she blinds enemy heroes, and it also puts on a damage multiplier. That is one of the strongest abilities in the game. Cloaks need to be using that more aggressively, especially during their ultimate when they can. That's my thought on Cloak. Mantis,
Her contribution to triple strategist becomes more problematic during her ultimate. So increase the energy cost of Solar Surgeon's ultimate ability from 4,300 to 4,500. It's basically what I just said about Cloak and Dagger and her ultimate. Yeah, Ultron and Adam are both left off. Like I said earlier, I love the change to Adam. Ultron, ult charge. I like that I like that both of their alts can kind of be duds. Whereas all these other healers, it's so easy to get value out of them because they're just like large circles of health. But yeah, I like a lot that like Adam Warlock's ultimate can be not great, and so can Ultron. So I don't think that those have to be touched. To recap, if I had to point to anything, it would really be the start. We need better communication from the devs. We need more frequent changes. We desperately need more bans. I can't believe that this was not implemented in this season. That's like really unacceptable to me. The devs need to commit to making Vanguard more attractive. And all of this is coming from a person who loves the game, who wants to have players at the highest rank be those that want to win and also understand the game at that high of a level. But right now, the current state of balance, I just feel like you can lock in Phoenix, Hela, heck, even the Punisher, Groot. There's, maybe like 7 heroes, Moon Knight, a lot of strategists, and you can climb the ranks so easily just because the kits are carrying the players. There's this quote I saw about an Overwatch player. Like a player was just like rambling, right? And the player said, leave you on this, it became almost impossible to differentiate between who's really good at the game and who's really good because of the game. And I think we've crossed that line now.